it's the Mac Militant. Coming to get it on.
Hey, welcome to Monday's edition of the Enhancement Talent. It is everything in the world of professional wrestling. I am Aaron Cornish with 99.5 WKDQ.
And I'm The Rob from 106.1 KISS FM, and we've got a fun list of things. Well, I guess a fun list of people who were fired over the past week.
Yeah, we got Thursday's edition out just before they announced the list of names, so we didn't get to comment on that, but we will definitely do that today. Before we do that, a couple of things to get to. First of all, you got an email.
Yeah, Jeremy sent an email after our merchandise one, which I had so much fun.
That was fun, yeah, and I thought of a bunch more that I had afterwards, but that may have to be another episode for another time.
Jeremy sent me an email. Some of these brought back some real memories. He said, hello, as a young kid, I owned many WWF action figures. I had over 50. I still own them. They are in my shed. I'm 26 now, he writes. I also had the SmackDown stage with the metal piece that was on the wrestlers, so when they came out, their music would play.
I think that was the thing I was most jealous of that wasn't around when I was a kid.
That was awesome. I was too old for that. But if I were a kid, that would have been an awesome. I remember, like Kurt Angle was a guy I remember, and you slid him over the ramp and his music would play.
That's awesome.
Like that was great. I also have a winged WWF toy belt. It is black and rubber and plastic, not like the cheap phone stuff they're selling now. I also have some old VHS tapes. You know I have a bunch of those.
Yes.
As well as Coliseum Videos, I believe, was the brand. It was Coliseum Video, in fact. My brother has old wrestling magazines from the early 80s. I know you have a bunch of those.
I have a ton. I have over 100, maybe 200.
And my oldest ones I actually got from you. Back when you first started working here, you sold me a few of those. And he gave those to me. So those are some of the things I own. Enjoy the show. Keep it up. Thank you, Joseph. I appreciate that.
All right, and one other thing I think it's worth at least noting that last night TNA's Slammiversary pay-per-view, nothing of real note.
Okay.
Eric Young did retain the title in a steel cage match against Bobby Lashley and Austin Aries, which I heard was a pretty good match. But the biggest thing of note is that the latest inductees into the TNA Hall of Fame, if that means anything to you, is Team 3D, as in Bubba Ray and Devon.
I suppose they belong.
They belong. It's interesting to me still that they have a Hall of Fame now with 3 inductees in it, none of which started in TNA.
Who are the other ones?
Sting and Kurt Angle.
Well, you know, honestly, that's a fair representation of what their Hall of Fame should be, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, but, and instead they've made mad guys like AJ Styles and Frankie Kazarian that built that company and sent them away. So, what are you going to do?
But you know what? Would you have done differently?
Jeff Jarrett, maybe. But again, they made him mad and kicked him out too. So, what are you going to do?
Well, the big news story is like, literally the moment after we finished filming on Thursday, WWE drops a bombshell. They let go of 10 employees, at least 10 on-air personalities.
This is actually the first time they've done this with the main roster since I can remember this. It was like August of 2011, I think, was the last time they did this.
I feel like it happens like once a year, every other year or so.
See, it used to, but it didn't. Now, once Linda McMahon was like, running for office, they didn't want to cut all these people and make it seem like, oh, well, look at this. You're pushing for jobs, and now you're cutting people.
And now you're
this mass firing, this is, I believe, the first time it's happened since 2011, so it was kind of a big deal. But how many of these names were big deals? Well, that's what we're going to discuss.
How about I pitch them to you, and you give me like a one-sentence thought on what you think about it? Yeah. First name on my list is Theodore Long.
It's a shame, but I think it was probably mutually agreed upon.
He doesn't seem upset about it.
No,
nor should he be.
I think Teddy's been with the company many years. He refereed the very first match I ever saw.
Look at that.
In 1989, and he had already been around for a while. So he's got grandkids. He's probably ready to step back a little bit.
I can remember the match, but not the referee. What was your match? I'm curious. Your first match you ever saw?
Very first match, George South. He is widely renowned enhancement talent, taking on a very young Shane Douglas.
What company?
WCW.
Okay.
1989, Louisville, Kentucky.
A house show in 1996, I believe. My first match, a tag team extravaganza, pitting the Body Donnas with Sonny against the Godwins.
Awesome.
So that was my first one. Couldn't tell you who the referee was. What are your thoughts about Camacho?
I think he had a lot of potential. I think they put him in the wrong gimmick. Definitely has the bloodline, but he wasn't doing nothing, so not a surprise.
I say farewell, Camacho.
Yeah.
The biggest surprise to me, to be honest with you, was Brodus Clay.
Not a surprise to me, and I'll tell you why.
I know what you're going to say. I bet you.
First of all, he had a nice start. I thought Even with the cheesy gimmick, he had a really good start.
And he embraced it, and that's what you're supposed to do when you get those cheesy gimmicks.
He, unfortunately, while he had a good look, never dropped the weight, that's always a big deal with him. You can be big, but you can't be flabby. And he was flabby. And on top of that, I saw him at the house show. I watched him work. I was not a fan of the way he was working. He was very slow. And just didn't match the WWE style, so I had a feeling he was on the way out.
You called that right after the house show. I remember you saying that. But to me, he was very visible, and I was surprised to see him go. What about Evan Bourne?
That might be the biggest surprise to me. I know he'd been hurt for a very long time. They had him rehabbing, but maybe all that time off hurt him because other guys stepped up. But you got to feel in a world where a lot of these independent guys are now striving, he would have fit perfectly. So it does surprise me a lot with Evan Bourne.
Well, the thing is, for lack of a better term, I felt like they could never get Evan Bourne off the ground. Anytime they tried takeoff, he would get hurt, something would happen, and he was so talented, but it just didn't work.
Yeah, I would have loved to see matches with him and guys like Seth Rollins and
Cesaro.
Oh my gosh, how great would that have been?
There's a lot of opportunities there that were missed.
But anyway, he's going to make tons of money on the indies and go back and love it, so that's okay.
Have thoughts about Yoshitatsu?
Not surprising at all. No, see ya.
Oksana?
I think they had big plans for her until she pretty much messed up the face of Naomi.
Is that what she did? I don't even remember that.
Knee drop to the face, messed up her eye, but I won't miss Oksana. There's a couple things about her I'll miss, but
we can call this the 100 bell salute.
Yes.
How about you want to cover them together? Kurt Hawkins and Jinder Mahal. You want to call it for them individually? Your pick.
Well, first let's start with Kurt Hawkins. I mean, I think a different animal altogether. I mean, The Rock has been outspoken about how he loved working with Kurt Hawkins because he got him back into ring shape.
He trained him for the Cena match.
Right. Kurt, I think, had a lot of potential, just not a lot going on as far as, after his partner left. And who was his part? Tyler Rex. After his partner left.
Oh, wait, Kurt Hawkins was not in three-man band, was he?
No.
I apologize. That's why I lumped them together.
But Kurt Hawkins, after he had two partners leave on him. First it was Vance
Tyler
Archer who left, and then Tyler Rex, and he just and of course with Zack Ryder doing his own thing, it just didn't work out for him. So that not a big surprise to me either.
I'm sorry, in my head I had them as three-man band. I don't know why. Tell me about Jinder Mahal.
Jinder Mahal and Drew McIntyre. If you want to put them together, I think in a way they for three-man band, they worked out well. I'm kind of surprised they split them up because it seemed like they had more TV time now than ever.
They really did. I mean, they were enhancement talent for sure, but they were always on Raw.
Right.
And always on the pay-per-views, even if it's just the pre-show.
Right. So that kind of surprised me. Of course, you could make three-man band out of just about anybody, keeping Heath Slater as the top guy of that group. But Jinder Mahal does not surprise me. Was never into him. Didn't really see any need there. Drew McIntyre could have been huge. And they just lost faith in him.
A lot of people say that. You really think he could have been huge?
I think he could have been, and I think they had plans for him to be. I mean, I think at one time they wanted. Even Vince McMahon on TV was calling him the chosen one. So you have to think that they had plans for him. It just never panned out.
But he never delivered.
Had the look.
He offered so little.
Yeah,
I mean, he looked okay. Everything was just okay. He wrestled okay. There was nothing about him stood out to me. Do you care about referee Mark Harris?
I mean, referees have a big role, but I'm just glad it was, I'm not glad he lost his job. I'm glad it was not John Cone or my buddy Rudy Charles, Dan.
My personal friend, Mike Chioda.
Yeah. So, but anyway, that's interesting. But yeah, none of them big surprises. I think, to me, Evan Bourne the biggest surprise, and maybe Drew McIntyre.
One last question. Who will, of the wrestlers released, who will have the biggest independent career or career outside of WWE, post WWE?
Evan Bourne will do well on the Northeast Indies, I think. Brodus Clay may do very well in Japan.
Brodus Clay will probably get some money, I think, because he's people know him as the Funkasaurus.
He'd be the perfect guy to go to Japan too.
I think so
they
too.
Would love him in Japan. And I'm surprised some people that aren't on this list. David Otunga. surprises me that is not on this list.
Okay.
Honestly, Zack Ryder surprises me that is not on this list, but I'm glad he still has a job.
You got to imagine every time they start releasing people, he's got to be sweating sweating bullets.
Oh, and we also forgot to mention the guy that's because I think Vince forgot he had him hired, JTG. he's on this list
I apologize for
but
that.
He was one of the last ones mentioned, and JTG, having not done anything in about 2 years, best in your future endeavors as well, JTG.
Well, to everyone who lost their jobs, we salute you. We remember your time in WWE fondly.
Come on the Enhancement talent. We'll let you air your grievances.
We would love to have you. I love the quote from JTG. He simply tweeted, "Damn, why I pick up my phone this morning?"
As if he didn't pick up his phone, he'd still have a job. Probably.
Exactly. Well, thank you for tuning in to this week's Enhancement Talent on Thursday. Something very exciting.
Yes, we've got the folks from Vex Pro Wrestling that are going to be in. They've got a big show coming up this weekend at Vincennes. We'll talk to them and see what they've got coming up. Domino, the former Domino, Cliff Compton, is going to be at their show, among others. So we'll talk to them on Thursday. Have a great week.
Coming to get it on.